What is going on? My name is Jack McNeil of BaseballCentral.com. We'll be at the winter meetings in just a few weeks from now, very short weeks, I may add, as well. As the hot stove is starting to kick out, let's talk about the Cardinals. They are interested in Ben Zobrist, according to John Heyman, as well as 20 other teams. So, not huge news there. The Cardinals have interest in players that can provide production in a number of positions. They have yet to settle on one key position to focus on this season. They're looking at offensive options to boost the power number and production in a few positions, as they are not really sure. I mean, you look at the St. Louis Cardinals lineup. If Matt Adams can come back and have a good year, you still have Brendan Moss there. The outfield is still questionable. Piscotty is now up there. In center field, there's some questions of who's going to start all the time. Is John Jay the guy moving forward? We have some younger players that could take some time. And Matt Holliday is entering his last year for the St. Louis Cardinals in left field. Johnny Peralta, there's been some questions on defense, and will he last as a shortstop as we move farther and farther into his 5-year contract signed with the Cardinals just a few years ago? Colton Wong, does he need some time off at second base here and there, third base? So there's some questions on. It would be nice to have a utility man. The question is whether the St. Louis Cardinals could convince Ben Zobrist, a phenomenal player who has the interest of many teams, many teams would consider him a starting second baseman, to play, as Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch put it, an uber, kind of utility player. I'm going to make a terrible joke about Uber, because Ben Zobrist's fares may be very high this offseason with how much interest he has been receiving. And that is your terrible joke of the day. Now let's move on here to another player the Cardinals could be looking at. The Cardinals' options are pretty open right now, and if you're a Cardinal fan, part of you is scared of the Cubs and other teams really going to catch up with the St. Louis Cardinals. They beat them last year, but can the Cardinals keep up with the Chicago Cubs, who have a ton of money to spend and a lot of young players and a lot of power? The Cardinals are in a position where we just lost Lance Lynn. Adam Wainwright is entering another year, see if he can stay healthy. There's some questions on the offensive side of things. They were beat out by their rival Cubs. It is starting to seem like the time where the Cardinals still are going to be a phenomenal team, but if they do not get active in the free agent market, they might not be as competitive as they were, or at least not win 100 games as they did last season. They are going to be in the market for starting pitching. They were probably going to be in the market for pitching anyway, but after Lance Lynn went down, they are 100% in the market for either an ace, a number 2, or number 3 starter. If you look at the free agents available, someone like David Price, as Ken Rosenthal reported, the Cardinals, Cubs, Dodgers, Giants, and Red Sox are showing the most interest in Price right now. You got to look historically, though, at the St. Louis Cardinals. They do not spend on free agent pitchers. I mean, some of their biggest contract to free agent pitchers, like Braden Looper from 05 for 3 years and $13 million, or Jake Westbrook, who had already been with the St. Louis Cardinals. They normally do not go out of their way to sign someone in free agency. They have not found value in those type of deals. They have homegrown players, and then they sign them to a deal. Adam Wainwright signed that big extension, the 5-year, just over $100 million deal just a few years back, but he was a homegrown player who was getting rewarded. They do not normally go out in the free agent market and sign players. They do, however, have homegrown players and then let those players go. Joel Pinheiro, who came from a bunch of different teams and kind of reclaimed his career with the St. Louis Cardinals with Dave Duncan, a masterful pitching coach, and then he signed a 3-year deal with the Boston Red Sox. So they've seen a lot of players come, get very good, and ship off, or just stay with the St. Louis Cardinals. They do not go out and get aces and get top pitchers from the free agent market hoping to get good value out of their deal. So a deal for David Price or a deal for someone like Jordan Zimmerman would be almost a franchise first. It would be a historic deal for the St. Louis Cardinals. But if they're going to make a deal like that, expect it this season. John Lackey is a question mark whether they go out and get him, who again would be a returning situation after they got phenomenal production out of him. Adam Wainwright, hopefully he stays healthy. And you have some promising young arms that were hurt by injuries, Carlos Martinez and Marco Gonzalez. So we will see what the Cardinals can do in 2016 on the rotation, but they will need a pitcher this offseason. Going back to the offensive side of things, there's some other players, as Drupal Cabrera, who showed interest in the Cardinals before, could be a nice complement to several positions in the infield. He is also a free agent. So we will see how the Cardinals handle this offseason. It is going to be very interesting to see. Thanks for listening.